Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Reels and Heels. Just before we go into our intro, though, I do want to post this up. I have a very good friend who's been missing since September 29th. We met in the movie fandom circle, and we became close over the years. And I just pray that he's out there safe and he is found.
So since we have viewers in all over the place, if you have seen him or if you've heard anything about him, please call the tip line, and hopefully we'll be able to bring him home safe. And understand that there are other extenuating circumstances. He does deal with mental health issues, and the last post he made was that he wasn't feeling well. So we're just trying to make sure that he's safe and he is found soon.
So anybody in the greater Los Angeles area, if you've seen him anywhere, please call this tip line or the local police. And TJ, if you're out there listening, we're looking for you, brother.
My LA friends.
Is that somebody's cat or is that a baby?
Yeah,
That's my cat.
Not me.
So let's
The
go ahead
kid's
and
locked
our
her in a
intro,
room
and then
before
we'll
they
introduce.
ladder.
Why can't cats be babies? That's just.
All right, so this is episode 29, and we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to not talk about movies, wrestling, or TV today. We're actually going to talk about indie creation and all these indie creators that we've gathered here. I'm friends with a lot of indie creators, and I was like, they need an outlet to talk about
share their creations.
Right. So we're going to go around the table, and we'll start with Michaela. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Around the table.
Hi, I'm Michaela Jade. I write historical paranormal romance right now. Later, it might be something different. You can find my stuff everywhere. You can find it on my website. You can find it on my Facebook page. I've got 2 books out right now, Warrior Secret and Obsidian Hearts. Obsidian Hearts is through another pen name. Linnea Fletcher is the pen name. And again, you can find it anywhere. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart.com, wherever.
That's awesome. And then we're also joined by Hocus Pocus Comics.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, I'm Dwight McPherson, and
Rebecca.
this is my wife, Rebecca, and we've been making comics since 2007, self-publishing. I've worked for DC Comics and Image and IDW and a lot of the big publishers out there, but we decided we wanted to go with our own way and actually focus on education. So that's really the gist of that's really our focus of where we're at. We want to get our books in classrooms and be read by kids and by teachers and loved by all.
That's
And
awesome.
our website is hpcomics.net. You can buy all of our books. We have about 4 books available. Fiction, fantasy, gothic, horror. Horror right now is Elevator, just in time for Halloween, but you can find us there. Amazon. I guess everywhere.
Wherever you can order
Barnes
books,
and Nobles,
you will find them
Hocus
there.
Pocus. Yeah, so we're just doing it, making it happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we love the Edgar Allan Poe stuff. Thank you.
We're working on volume 2. That's going to be out in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Volume 2, and then volume 3 will be out in the spring, so we'll have our trilogy finally complete on
Finally
Poe.
complete.
Yeah, it's sad because it's going to end, but we're very excited to. I know it's been a journey.
It's been a real
I'm gonna
journey.
find a way to work it into my classroom since my kids read Telltale Heart.
Oh, they'll love it.
That's awesome.
They'll love it. Yeah.
They were like,
That's awesome. We appreciate it.
this is a creepy story, and I'm like, you've never read it before?
And
Edgar Allan Poe? What? No.
I think it's that they're finally old enough to understand it.
Yes.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
They really get
Well,
scared
what I
by it.
really wanted to do is layer it so that there was a layer that kids could understand and there was a layer that adults could understand. And me being such a huge literary nerd, I mean, I really wanted to have, strong literary content. I mean, you have mythology, Norse mythology, Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology.
Lord of the Rings,
So
get it all.
yeah, we have Lord of the Rings.
just
We
put it
have
all in
a
there.
little bit of everything. We just put it in a blender and just, So
And next we have Russell.
Hey, I'm Russell Allen with Russ Explode Studios. I do live interviews with creators, Kickstarters, stuff like that. And also, I will be releasing the first book from my studio, Xenonanite Titan, The Fall Before the Rise. It'll be kickstarting probably the first or second week of next month. Still working on a few things with that. So I'm excited to bring that. It's going to be a 3-part trilogy. They're going to be novels, probably about 200 pages each with awesome artist illustrations in the chapters. And then I plan on, after the trilogy is complete for the origin story of the main character, I will be putting it into a comic book format and doing a short run of a comic book for it.
yay, comics.
Okay, comics.
And we got artist Javier Lugo.
Hello, everybody. Hey, this is Javier Lugo. I'm an artist. I'm not good with words. I'm good with pencil,
That's awesome.
paper,
That's life.
and wrestling. So, yeah, I guess we are going to make a liar out of you, Brian. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm drawing a comic book for Bobby Fulton and the Fantastics. I'm doing issue 2. It's been a while because I'm doing it, on my off time, but it's a lot of fun. I get lost watching the videos instead of drawing. So it's taken a long time to get done, but it's one of several projects I'm real happy to draw for at the level that I'm at. I get the privilege of bringing people's visions into existence.
Exactly.
The wonderful scenarios, the drama, the horror, the fear, all these things. I get to turn these words into physical representations and have these characters act this out. I don't know. It's like translation. I love it. And I, as much as I may like to one day write, that's not my role. I understand my role is to turn other people's words into even more beautiful art if I can.
Nice. And then we got our good friend Travis Gibb.
Hello. I'm a little confused. I thought I was here to defend Catwoman from Holly Berry. That's what I was told. So I'm really confused. I don't know anything about comics. But, Holly Berry, she fought and she did Catwoman. So
Oh my god.
she was also Storm too, but mostly Holly Berry or Catwoman. But no, I do this. Broke down 4 Dead Bodies. Oh, sorry, the TV's in the way. I don't know how to. All right, there you go. That Voodoo Nation's the big one for me. I also have one called Cthulhu Invades Oz, which got all my best friends together to do a cool crossover where Cthulhu and Oz fight and kill each other. It's good times. That is right now. You can get that on the Kickstarter. It's not live, but we're doing the following. It's going to be live at the end of the month. CthulhuInvades.com for that. And that's me. I'm a writer. Great stuff.
And then we have Tom Hutchinson, who is more than just a comic book writer. He's the founder of Big Dog Inc. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, Tom Hutchinson. I'm publisher, writer, art director, sales guy, whatever. All the hats that you need to do self-publishing. We've been doing this for 10 years now. 2020 is our 10-year anniversary. And we've been doing Kickstarters now as our primary form of distribution for the past 4 years, and just been growing it every single time we do another campaign. So we have Ursa Minor coming up in a week from today. In fact, next Saturday, we'll be launching Ursa Minor on Kickstarter. And it's going to be a busy last quarter of the, I don't even know if it's a quarter, last 3 months of the year, because even beyond the Kickstarters, we have all kinds of other little special events we're having planned to wrap up our 10-year anniversary.
Nice. And then last but not least, we have Chuck.
Yeah, there is an issue because I'm only here to argue with Travis Gibb and say that Halle Berry was not only the absolute worst Catwoman, but she's worse than the stick figure drawings that I drew. So, no. But anyways, I suppose I'll talk about me just a little bit.
Bullshit.
Yeah, it's gonna
I
go.
wasn't the first one. It wasn't me.
What's up, gang? I'm Chuck Pino. I'm a freelance writer and editor. Mostly I focus on comics, which includes such things as Welcome to the Void and Belial 2, which is on Kickstarter right now. And I also have an audio drama, Essence House, which you can find on any podcast right now or podcast sites right now. And we're turning it into a novel next month via Kickstarter.
Nice.
That's nice. Yeah, Chuck, you're always busy. I'm like seeing all your posts.
Thank you, homie.
As much as all of you, I'm always, posting. Tom, I don't think he ever sleeps.
As proof by last night when I was just like laying in bed going, well, let's just turn the camera on and invite people to talk for 2 hours. So, yeah.
Well, my first question,
Very
and
strange
this is
bunch.
going to be for all of you. What first got you interested in creating? And we'll start with you, Michaela.
Oh Lord, I've always been a creator. I mean, like when I was a little kid, it was stories that I would tell everybody, and they all knew that they were crap stories. They weren't true, but I'd go tell my mom this fantastic tale of something that happened while I was out playing in the yard. So I've always been that way. I'm Native American on my father's side. And he would teach me all about that. So that led me to making dream catchers and Native American art and stuff like that. So I've always done stuff. Now I figured out how to write books.
Nice. What about you guys, Hocus Pocus?
Oh, you go first.
I'm so like Michaela because, I had parent-teacher conferences all the time, that my parents had to go to because I made up the biggest stories. So, ever since I can remember, I've been reading, I've been watching a lot of, monster movies. Twilight Zone really stirred my imagination. Edgar Allan Poe. I knew I wanted to. I actually started out, I wanted to be an artist, but I found out that I could get the thoughts out of my head faster to actually write them down. So I switched my focus from art to writing. And I love writing and I love telling stories, and as she can vouch for. But yeah, I've always, ever since I can remember, those early parent-teacher conferences for telling, fibs kind of with show and tell, right?
They're very interesting fibs. They're quite creative.
Now, Rebecca has a very interesting, if you want to answer that question.
Oh my gosh. I'd say my biggest influence to create is from a background of always hearing music in my house. My mom always had the Disney records on. We always had the radio on. I grew up listening to that. We went to the theater, went to the museums. I always had a book in my hand. So I knew that I wanted to be a person who created a world for somebody else to enjoy. And I think The Wind in the Willows was the first book that I read that I just thought, wow, this man created a world with animals, have their own little world, and they talk to each other, they have stores, and they have Christmas, and that kind of sparked my interest. I went a roundabout way. I worked in TV and theater and film, so I worked on TV studios a lot in Los Angeles for 7 years. So I did a lot of administrative assistant work. I worked for Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith, Denzel Washington as a production secretary. I knew I wanted to be in the industry. I wanted to create. And when I was working at Meltdown Comics in Los Angeles, I read his book and bought his book. So that's how I got into comics, because I wanted to see the world of comics. That's how I got started. And we're always creating. We drive down the road. And if we see a dead animal, we have to have a story. I said, honey, what happened to the rabbit? And we'll do a story about it, because that way you kind of keep your juices going, how you can create a story.
Absolutely.
So
every animal that we ever see has a name and a backstory. It's just
that's how
we can't help ourselves.
Now I'm gonna hop over to Javier, our artist, and ask him that question. What first got you into creating?
I Star Wars.
Oh, there There we go.
Nice.
I was 7 years old. It blew my mind away. I remember turning around, looking at my mom and saying, okay, so we're coming back to watch the continuation of the story. She said, no, honey, they may never make another one like this again. And that's when I knew, wait a minute, if they're not going to do it, I'm going to figure something out. So I had already been reading comics by that time. But that was really just blew my mind and said, wow, it can be so much more than just, the comics on the newspaper. So, yeah, that's it.
Yeah. What about you, Russell?
Well, I've always been creative since I was a kid, coming up with crazy stories for, the reason why things happened, or I always read, that was one of my big things. I loved reading books. I loved reading comic books. Brian Jakes was one of my inspiring authors that I read. I love the Redwall series, Mossflower. I found that at the library, and I was like, this book looks well read. And I picked it up, and I'm like, man, this book is awesome. So I continued following his books, growing up, even after I graduated high school and up until he died. And, I like to create. I like to come up with crazy off the wall stuff that just out of nowhere. Like, I have some of my most inspiring moments when I'm mowing the grass or just driving down the road. What really got me into the industry, though, was when I had a teacher who gave us this coloring assignment back in like 3rd grade. And they're like, all right, you color this picture and then make up a story to go along with it. And I was like, oh, this is easy enough. And so I wrote a great story, and the teacher really liked it. And she's like, you could go somewhere with this one day. And, I've always wanted to be a writer and a creator, but I've always had people on the outside going, oh, no, you need to get a real job. You need to get something that you can support a family with and not do something that you like to do as a hobby. That will never be a job for you. So it's always been my dream, and kind of my thing is when people tell me I can't do something, eventually down the road, I'm going to make it happen. So this is kind of like my breakthrough. I've already wrote a few books. I haven't published them, but Xeno Nanite Titan will be kind of like my breakthrough story to say, I'm doing it.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I'm always a person that, believes if you have something that you want to do, just keep, working at it. Travis, what about you, man?
So there I was in 2004. Peter, the guy, a French director who was the 2nd unit director of Aliens Resurrection, everyone's favorite Aliens, put out Catwoman by Halle Berry, and I was inspired. That I just needed to do this because someone can do it better. Someone. So I've been writing stories my whole life. I actually came down to Florida to go to film school. I wanted to be a director. When I was in high school, I studied film. Like, I was watching all the directors cut: Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez, Guy Ritchie, all those guys. I was just like soaking that stuff up. I've watched more directors' commentary than most people on the planet. I still buy DVDs for directors' commentary. While you guys are all on Netflix, I'm still spending $30 a disc for some stupid reason. But I want to tell stories. I started doing when I started doing LARPing, I realized I was really good at it. I ran big LARPs for an organization called the Camarilla. So for those who know, Vampire and Werewolf from White Wolf, I ran 200, 300 person games. Really, really good at it. So a lot of people really liked my stories. So I started writing comics. I wrote a small little backup story in a comic. Someone accepted my submission. And then I started writing. I wrote for Image, for Negative Burns. And then from then I took a little break because you have a kid. You apparently want to raise them. I don't know why. Apparently they can't raise themselves. And then I just came back in and kept doing it. I never stopped, though. I was always doing LARPs or role-playing games or something. I just, now I'm getting paid for it. Slightly. Less than Tom, more than Chuck. And, well, no, Chuck's an editor. He gets way more than me.
Oh, my God. What about you, Tom?
Wise, I make more. Editing-wise, he trumps me in all regards.
What about you, Tom?
This will sound weird. I've never been inspired to create. Like there was never anything that happened. I was like, I have to make something, but it was always in my DNA for whatever reason. So I was always just drawing. I was always, I was engaged in television and all that kind of stuff. And so I was always doing something, but it was never a thought process of like, I want to do it. I have to do it. I want to do this as like a living or whatever. Like there was no path like, hey, you should be an artist or you should be a writer and you should focus on this to do it. Like none of that ever happened. Everything I've ever done, I just kind of fell into by doing something previous that led me to something else. One of the things that was probably the most key element that brought me to realizing that I could do comics was when I was in high school. I had a friend of mine, and we were both big wrestling fans. So we actually had created our own wrestling dice game, using like clay snakes. We would just roll out snakes and we, roll dice and bash the snakes over each other and whatever. But that eventually grew into, like the WWF back in the day with their interview segments and so on. We would actually start to write and draw interview segments for each other. So I would like write something, give it to him, and he would read it. And then, the next weekend he'd write something and draw it, give it back to me. And suddenly we were having this like back and forth of this growing story that actually built an entire world around these dumb wrestling snakes. But years later down the line, I realized that what we were doing was writing comics, because it was panel by panel, it was word balloons, it was characters, it was these things doing this stuff. And I was like, well, damn, we actually wrote comics without even really realizing what we were doing. And that was sort of a catalyst for me to move from what I was then trying to do to some degree, which was draw comics, which was not happening. But then I realized that we had already been writing for years and years and years. And so I was like, well, maybe I can transition myself to do some writing. But even then it was all just on the side. I had my 9-to-5 job. I was going to make a comic book and just go to little local cons on the weekends and just have fun with it. But again, all the dominoes just kept falling in a way that I ended up, getting laid off from the job. I had these comics made and I was like, well, let's just go. Let's just see what we can do with it. And that was 10 years ago. And I've been doing nothing but comics basically for the last 10 years. So it's all just been a door opens and I walk through it. Another door opens, I walk through it. And this is where we've ended up.
Awesome. And, I've actually followed this 10-year journey, and it's been a great 10-year journey to follow.
Chuck, I appreciate it. It's been weird. it's been weird for sure. It is a roller coaster story of its own, but we're still going.
Chuck, what about you, man?
Man, I've always been telling stories and really interested in the kind of the gears of storytelling and sort of what makes a good story, what doesn't. And I mean, even from a young age, I was always kind of like picking things apart and really appreciating, certain aspects, certain scenes and why they were important and all that kind of stuff. And it was just kind of normal to me. And when I turned 20, I ended up moving away from home, and the internet was this kind of brand newish sort of thing. And I loved D&D and role-playing and all that kind of stuff. And I went online and I found this thing called play-by-post role-playing. And basically, you play your own character. There's an entire world there of moderators telling you what you see, and then you meet up with other characters. And so it's like telling one aspect of a story while the rest of the story builds around you. And while there, I met this amazing writer whom I fell in love with them, and their name was Wendy Gale. And we got to talking, and everything was really good. And they ended up moving from Texas to Canada to be with me. And we spent the rest of our lives together writing and just being happy. And we ended up creating our own world and our own play-by-post role-playing game. That went fairly big, actually. We had people all over the world playing, hundreds of players playing at any one given time, just having a blast and building this world. And then finally, after a while, I was like, man, I'm having a hard time finding a way to monetize this or do something with this. I want to get out there and create and write. And so comics kind of popped up in front of me, and I've always loved comics since I was young. And a door opened, and I kicked it down and kept running and kept kicking and found editing and fell in love with editing and just kept kicking and loving it and enjoying this ride.
What part of Canada are you from, Chuck?
That's awesome.
I'm originally from Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Okay. I'm in
Just north.
Winnipeg, Manitoba. So.
Oh, nice. I've got friends in Winnipeg. Yeah, the Peg, as we call it.
Yeah.
Hockey
Place on
country.
Earth.
Wait, Canada's real? I thought that was like Narnia, like a fictional place. That's real?
We're very
So-
much real.
We prefer to call it America's Heaven, but whatever. However you guys want to call it. However you guys want to call it.
Why is your dollar worth less than ours? I'm so confused.
To make you feel better, because money doesn't mean anything in heaven.
Oh!
Oh,
Oh my god. So, and this is for the writers. How do you develop your characters? And is it the same for comic books as for novels? And we'll start with anybody who wants to answer.
That's you, Chuck.
that was so my question.
Well, as someone who's done both, I would say that for me, there's no difference between creating a comic book character and creating a character for prose. At the end of the day, you want someone who is fleshed out and feels real to the audience, and someone that they're either going to love or hate. Really, they just need to feel passionately about that person, or sometimes even dispassionately. Like maybe it's very important for you just to not care about that person at all. But either way, there's certain eccentricities and feels that you need to try to bring out with that character. A lot of that comes through story, but it also comes through their attitude and whatnot. Really, I think for me personally, when I'm building a character, it's really important to me to kind of see their way of life, see what makes them tick, understand what their point of view is, because without that, they're just a shell. And so they're just making decisions for, just for my plot. And really, I want the characters to drive the story. And so that it becomes more than just a really cool story. It becomes a wavelength of character side stories and all that kind of stuff. So everything kind of weaves together.
Yeah, plot is what your characters do. Story is why they do it. But as far as developing a character, it's no different than if you're making a movie or a TV show or a comic book. You have to come up with all the pieces of this character. The presentation obviously is different, whether it's a prose novel or a comic or a TV show. But building the character is basically the same across all platforms, I would assume.
Yeah. Agree 100%.
Yeah. Do you guys have inspirations for developing characters? I mean, do you like or reading other people's work or watching a TV show or a movie and get ideas when you're developing a character for a set project?
At first,
the best
I
thing
didn't.
I use is
Oh, go ahead.
I don't know who was talking.
Go ahead, Russell.
sorry. No, the best thing that I do is I try to use somebody that I know. If I'm trying to develop a character that has a certain skill set or trait or emotion in their life or the way they act, I try to find somebody that I know that fits the description of the character I'm trying to do and kind of use interactions and the way they act to help build that character. I find that, helpful. It's knowing somebody.
Sure.
I would say a good character is around every corner, man. Everything you see, any of that can inspire a really good character. I mean, there's been, like Russ said, people that we meet. I ended up doing some random research on imps just to find something special for Belial. And I found this amazing story about an imp that ended up trying to attack an angel. And I was like, holy crap, this guy's got balls. I want to use that. So you never know where you're going to find a good character or a good idea, like a hook for a story or something. Your eyes just have to be open and available to that.
You're always observing. You're
Yeah,
always constant.
and that's one thing about writers. I mean, I'm constantly observing people, seeing their little quirks, how they interact with other people. Just the reaction to when something doesn't go right for them. So yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of sometimes we do use or at least personalities because we know them so well, and we figured out what makes them tick and why they react the way they do to certain circumstances. So yeah, I totally agree with Chuck. I mean, we're constantly looking, and there is a character around every corner, and you want them to be somebody relatable. Either you love them or you hate them, but you have a strong emotion about and a connection to them. Now, I remember reading The Magicians, the book, and I was like, I hate every single one of these characters. I mean, I really did. I hated them all. I mean, I could not connect with one of them. I'm like, what is he trying to do? But by the time I got to the end of the book, I was like, that was a great book. I mean, because you love to hate the characters. So I think that, characters are complex. People are complex. You meet complex people every day. So that's the fun of actually bringing that out and developing that. Each character, they shouldn't just do what your plot dictates. They should be a well-rounded person. People can go, oh man, I love so-and-so, because he's so, the way he reacts to things, he's so kind, he's so whatever. So yeah, absolutely.
But
We're constantly inspired.
I think some of most of our off-the-wall plots and characters comes from shopping at Walmart.
I have always found that writers, for the most part, either have a huge love for humanity or hatred for humanity. It's one of the two. For me, I have a huge love for humanity, so I want to figure out what makes them tick. I want to figure out where their trauma is, what broke them, and how they've overcome that, what that story is. So even my secondary characters will always have some sort of traumatic response. That every response that they make in my scripts are a response to that trauma or that hurt that define that person. Because every person, when I sat them at my dinner table and had a coffee or a beer, you find that thing that they can't get over, or this brokenness that they just want to heal inside of them. And I love to explore that. And so that's how I develop characters, is I would what is this brokenness that I want to work on, whether it be my own or a friend or someone I meet, and how do I flesh that out in the course of the story?
Yeah, absolutely.
The triumph of the human spirit.
Like Holly Berry and Catwoman, because she survived all those horrible things,
including that Razzie Award.
Oh my god!
Oh no!
I was gonna hop.
I hope she doesn't watch the show.
Oh yeah, so we're gonna get a cease and desist letter from Halle Berry, right? So.
Hi, Halle.
Hey, she has a good sense of
She's
humor about
watching.
this whole thing, so I think she'd be in on the razzing.
The things we lost in the fire was probably the best thing you've ever done.
So, Michaela, we know that your book, you mix a lot of different genres into it. You want to go ahead and talk about Warrior Secret?
It started, and it's probably why it got all mixed up, because I started writing it when I was 13 or 14, and I had this ideal of what a guy should treat a girl like. I needed a hero. When I was that age, life sucked, to put it bluntly. So I needed a hero, and Hawk was my hero. And so then I thought, well, he can't just be a guy. He has to be a knight in shining armor, right? So that's historical. And it's back in medieval days. That was my favorite back then. And I said, well, he can't just be a knight. He can't just have a horse. He can't just live in a castle. He has to have wings. Because if you know anything about my childhood, you know that Gargoyles was one of my favorite TV shows. Yeah, Goliath was my jam. Yeah, Goliath was my guy. So, of course, the guy I'm writing about, who's my hero and saves the damsel in distress, has to have wings. So it just was, I guess, a fluke luck that I was a good enough writer as I was. I had an English teacher say, you're really good at this. You should try this. And so for 20 years, I've had the book, writing, editing. I'd pick it up. I'd put it away. I'd work on it a little bit. I'd put it away. And so then Warrior Secret came to be because someone believed in me and said, this is really good writing. You should publish this. And I said, I don't know how to publish. So that began the whirlwind of, okay, how do you publish and where do you go? And Warrior Secret became, it was basically an idea. It was a manuscript. It was, now the writer that I am now, I look back at the first draft and I'm like, oh, that was horrible. Whoa. Because you learn so much. And one of my favorite things to learn is how to pull the reader in, how to get that deep point of view where you're not reading the story, you're living it. And that is the funnest thing for me. So when you read Warrior Secret, you're in it with them. You're living every moment. And when Hawk is upset or he's running to the rescue or Cassidy is in peril, you feel it. Or at least that's what I've been told. So everybody that's read it is like, I was in it. I felt it. I was tense while reading it. It's like, that's it. That's what I wanted. And to this day, my critique partner will catch me on it. She'll be like, you just told me the story. You didn't put me in the story. And so that part right there is one of, I guess, the hardest for me to see it, because I'll write it and not realize that I didn't pull you in because I'm already in it. So I'll say she went to the dining hall. You don't want to say that. You want to say something like her footsteps carried her, or the hall was really dark, or, you know, you want them in the hall.
I got a question here from the comments, and this is for any writer that wants to answer it. It says, writers, what do you do when you hit a brick wall at a critical point in your story?
I would say, as an editor, the way you can do that is by breaking it before you even hit that spot. I'm huge on outlines. Create an outline for your story, know where it's going, have those pillars always set up ahead of time. Yep. So you don't even hit those walls. You can just keep kind of going from, you know what, I like to say, imagine being Spider-Man in a wide open field. You're kind of useless. But if you put up all these pillars, you can swing from pillar to pillar and go back and forth, and now you're useful. So by creating these pillars or these bullet points of where the story is going to go, you have a really good idea. Also, you can keep from adding these extraneous scenes in, or you can know, where the important scenes are and what I'm working towards at all times. I know that for some people, they feel like it takes away the improv, the excitement, but there's still a lot that you can play within there because you're not writing everything. You're just putting in these important points. I would say, though, if you are someone who has a really hard time with outlines, move on to something else. Write about something else. Maybe write about the characters involved and maybe get into their backstory a little bit, and just for yourself, just kind of some headcanon. And something in their past or something in that story might delve something up for you and break that wall. I would say don't try to break your head through the wall. Try to find a way to get around it.
See, for me,
I agree.
We're basically on the same page.
I think the secret is structure.
Yeah. Well, structure is one thing, but that it still doesn't necessarily keep you from hitting something that you don't have an answer for. So for me, like Chuck was very similar, but instead of going and writing something else about what you're also already writing, I go somewhere completely different. So if I'm writing Critter and I'm writing superheroes and it's just not working for me, I'll go to a completely different book. I'll go start writing horror or my Western book and completely shake up my mindset to kind of force me out of whatever tunnel I was in and be like, okay, that's I'm just not there. I'm going to go write about this vampire biting somebody's face off now, and that will usually help me kind of shake things loose. And then again, once you kind of have run run that horror realm to a point where you're like, okay, well now I got to think about this for a second. At that point, you can probably go back to where you were, and your head will. It's like they sometimes say, write something, take a few days away from it, come back, and you can sometimes see where you made a left turn or a right turn or didn't make any of the right turns at all. And then you can kind of start to finagle your way through whatever was the problem was.
Right. And I don't think there is any right or wrong answer to this. It's just what works for us.
Yep.
Because I know the structure. I like to have what I call a skeleton or an outline. So I have the bones of where I'm going, but I can always fill that in with meat as I'm going along. But I have a skeleton that keeps me from getting too far away from the end goal that I want to, achieve. So, that works for me. For some people, it is reading Tolkien's letters. I mean, he went totally away from it for several years. It took him 10 years to write The Lord of the Rings because he did that. He concentrated on teaching courses and doing all that stuff. So I don't think there's any right or wrong answer, but I know for me, what works for me is to actually have that skeleton that I'm working on, like the dinosaur bones, that they can take and fill in and show you what a dinosaur looks like. So the fun is filling in the meat of the story itself. So that's what I do.
See, Chuck once told me that I should just half-ass it. Chuck said I should just half-ass it, let like Javier Lugo just draw it, and he'll just make it look pretty. So just get to a point, and if you can't figure it out, just write some bullshit. Javier Lugo, just put it all the pressure on the artist, and they'll figure it out.
Well,
that's an editor. I'm just saying what Chuck told me.
There's the artist saying where you're going to draw something. We'll just leave that for the colorist. For the writer, you just write something and say, we'll leave that for the editor. That's it. That's it.
You'd be surprised by how your artist can take your thoughts and kind of give it a little spice that you didn't expect, but you totally recognize, and it's right in sync. That's when you know you got a good collaborator.
Yep, that's a collaboration.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that you need to, when especially when you're doing something like comics, leave some room for that artist to play. Yeah. So I mean, just know like, oh man, I'm setting up the scene and there's a bunch of background characters, and give them a vague idea of what's there. Maybe let them play, especially if you know that's something they love. Like say you've got like this demon scene and there's a bunch of demons there, just go make whatever demons you want. Go have fun, and they love that. And you look smart even if you're just being a lazy jerk.
And you get the artist to get invested in the process as well, which is the buy-in that you want.
Yes. It is a collaboration.
That's right.
Yeah, I've told my artists all the time, like if you're reading the script and you can find a better visual way to take what I've written and do it better visually, just do it. Just show me what you got in mind, and don't like finish the page, but show me what you've got from just a loose standpoint. And if it makes sense to me, then we'll go with your way to do it. And that's happened, I don't know, 5 or 6 times where they're like, I think we can do this better. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Just go do it. So
and that leads me to my next question. It says, if you work with other talents, is collaboration difficult, and how do you network and find the right people to collaborate with?
Mm-hmm.
I don't collaborate story wise. I mean, but obviously comics are all collaboration because you have to find an artist, you got to find a colorist, you got to find a letterer, whatever. And that honestly is just flipping a coin. You're either going to get it or you're not going to get it. 50-50 anytime you hire somebody. Now over time, of course, you will find the people that did the work, that did the job, that did it the way you wanted it done. And then hopefully you can maintain that and be like, hey, let's do another comic. Let's do another comic. Let's do another comic. All that smooths out. But every time you do something new, the process starts over again. I need an artist to do this book. I need samples from these people. Here's 10 people that send you samples. You got to go through it all, see what you like. The process starts over again every single time you have to collaborate one more time. So there's no way around it in the comic book world. So you just have to kind of start to create your own rules for it. Like, I need it to do this way, this way, this way, this way. And you'll either find somebody to fall into those gaps, or, you'll have to keep looking.
Yeah. Well, me and Nicole were talking, and I told her, you could be a great writer and a great artist, and sometimes you just don't mesh. Is there a truth to that?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. 100%.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing around. It's not just writers and artists. It's writers and editors and stuff like that. I've seen, people where, I've sent stuff to an editor and I've really, really enjoyed it, really, really wanted to work with it. I've seen stuff where like that is, you're trying to tell your story. This is my story. Like, how do you do that? So it's the whole process of that. And every artist has a thing that works really well for them as a strength, and that is they have another negative that makes it really hard to deal with. So it's all trying to figure out what works. But as long as everyone's goal is to making the story better, then it works.
Yeah,
that's true.
And how do you guys network when you're looking for a collaboration? Is it just, I mean, we're in 2020 and COVID hit, but were you guys using conventions? I'm sure you were using like Twitter and Facebook to reach out to people.
Yeah,
with Facebook and social media, there's so many groups now. I mean, I'm in a dozen different art groups, so my feed is just art all day long, and it's like I see something, I'm like, oh, who's that guy? Click on his head, and suddenly I'm like, oh, okay, he's from this place, he's worked for Marvel, he's worked for DC. Here's his samples. Holy crap! I'm sending a message, dude. Do you want to do comics? Yes. Okay, there we go. I mean, literally, it can be like a 5-minute scenario where you are at 1 minute, you're at 0, and then 5 minutes later you have a guy working for you. So it's easier now than ever if you use the tools that have been presented. I mean, conventions are good too, but not everybody always has the time to sit and talk to you about your project when they're behind the table trying to push their art or push their book or whatever. So social media is great because it can go super fast, or everybody can kind of take their time and just let it sort of happen in its own organic way.
Yeah.
Hey Tom, if
see,
you don't
that's
mind,
like
just
what
say which
Tom-
group
what I
you
did with-
look at.
Oh, literally there's tons of them. I mean, if you were just to go into Facebook and just type in comic book art, you're going to get all of these different different groups. Some of them are very genre specific, like horror art or whatever. And in fact, I made a post of this the other day. People are always complaining about their feeds. I'm like, dude, your feed is up to you. It's who you are following. It's what groups you are in. So if it's not working for you, look in the mirror, because you're the one doing this to yourself. Drop out of some of this stuff, unfollow some people. And I tell people every week, go find some weird group to join. Go join an architecture group. Go join like a nature group. Go join an old, I'm in part of this old retro advertising group. So you have all this old like 60s, 70s, 80s advertising. Your feed changes, your mentality changes, everything changes. And end rant on your poor feeds. Make your feeds what you want them to be.
You put those
Thank
ugly
you, Russell.
gnomes on your lawn. Deal with it.
That's right. Yes.
And if you also don't like your feed, you can tag other people so they can also not like the experience as well. So you
That's
just
correct.
tag everyone in things you don't like.
Spread the misery as far as you
the
possibly
world
can.
gets better.
So we need to start tagging Halle Berry for Catwoman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Travis, you want to talk about 4 Dead Bodies?
Sure. Any particular 4 Dead Bodies or ones that have already come out?
The most
Down to 4
current
Dead
4.
Bodies.
Just the most current 4.
Just
yeah,
the current good bodies, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is my book, Broke Out of 4 Dead Bodies. We got 3 issues. The 4th issue is coming out at the beginning of the year. It's about 2 guys break down on the side of the road. Lots of guns, lots of violence, lots of F words, is what I like to say. It's kind of like my love letter to the movies that I enjoyed growing up, the Quentin Tarantino's, the Guy Ritchie, the Robert Rodriguez. They stopped doing action movies because Hollywood decided to make them have Sherlock Holmes. Quentin Tarantino decided to do Westerns for some strange reason. And Robert Rodriguez decided to start a Spanish network to redo Dusk Till Dawn for some reason. So they were all busy. So I decided to write some crime. In comics, in all seriousness, comics have a history of crime. Crime is a wonderful segment of comics, and there's not enough of it. So I really wanted to tackle that. But we're doing really well. We're about to wrap up the first series, which is really great. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. And I definitely got to get that 3rd issue because I do not have that one.
True. We don't see each other at cons. That's why you would have had it by now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't believe I said already dropped the word con and he wrote
Speaking of
I need a
which,
boss
like,
issue.
how has this affected your guys' business? I know a lot of you guys rely on conventions to sell your books and comics, and how has this? Have you guys figured out a way to adapt to the COVID world?
Yeah, everything online. We actually have to put all our books online to sell. They're kind of starting to slowly schedule them back for 2021. So we're kind of getting there a little bit, but social media again is another great way to get the word out on your books if you don't have a brick and mortar store, or if you can't meet up, in person.
But yeah, I mean, it's hurt us. Just like, there's been so many industries that have been hurt by this. I mean, you just focus, pound the PR, a lot harder than usual. So.
Also, it gives a lot of time to write. You have to actually go away and get inspired and write, otherwise we don't have any comics to produce.
Right.
So we've been doing a lot of that lately.
Right. So in a way, it's been a positive thing because it's given us more time to create.
Right.
And, we're excited about that. But on the income part of it,
Now, what about you, Michaela? I mean, I believe bookstores are still open. Are you still doing signings at bookstores, or?
I haven't yet, only because of the COVID. They don't want to schedule anything like that. I've got 2 local bookstores that are mom and pop places, and they usually do that. But of course, they've put everything on hold for right now. Barnes and Noble here locally does it. But again, everyone's waiting. But with those local mom and pop bookstores, they have my book. They have it on the shelf. They let people come in. And when COVID started, they started a whole new thing because they had to close. So they went online and they said, listen, we had talked about doing a website. We've not only got a website now, you can buy everything that's in our store on our website. And if you're local and you know us because you're local, drive up to the curb. We'll bring it to you.
Yeah.
And they said the only thing that was a hiccup was that they have a credit where if you bring in used books, they give you a credit to buy anything in the store. You couldn't use your credit on the website. However, if you called them, they were like, yeah, we'll put your credit in. We'll bring it to your car. No problem. So yeah, it's amazing. And what shocked me was we have other local artists, local authors. They didn't promote the bookstore. I'm like, your books are on their shelf.
Right.
Promote them.
Yeah.
Right.
It just blew my mind. And then you meet these guys at conferences and they're like, yeah, I don't have really book sales. I don't really have a lot of book sales. I'm like, you wonder why? You're not promoting. You're not. The free stuff at your fingertips, you're not using. It's just
the hustle. The hustle.
Yeah. Yeah. And I asked the bookstore lady, I said, does anyone else promote your store? And she's like, we've got about 2 out of 50 that have their books on the shelf that promote the store besides you. And I was like, so 3 out of 50.
Wow.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
I mean, and they post all the time. They post, here's what's new, here's what we're thinking. And they'll post like, hey, we've got a sale on DVDs. Okay, that doesn't have anything to do with books, but promote it. Sell your books. Yeah, it just blew my mind.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, Michaela, we see that with Kickstarters too on comics all the time, where someone will just put their comic on a Kickstarter and be like, well, it's going to take care of it, right? Nah, it ain't. Not unless you have a really low goal, buddy. Like, you better get out there, pay on the payment. I mean,
on the pavement.
It's the pavement.
Oh, yeah.
I was gonna say, when it comes to Kickstarter, not everybody can be Brian Paluto and just put it out there and
and just kind of sells itself, right?
But even Polito doesn't do that. Polito is online almost 24 hours a day.
Yeah,
even him doing that, he doesn't stop. And everybody needs to actually look at Polito not as like, I need to do it his way, like to I want to make $300,000. But just the effort that's put in, whether it's advertising or just your posts or your live feeds or your more specifically your audience engagement, because he'll just go on live and be like, hey, we're gonna like pull a ticket out of here and give one of our backers like a special thing. Like, he just keeps going. But everybody's like, oh, I'm so afraid to like make too many posts. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? You're selling the product. Does Pepsi stop marketing? No. Does McDonald's stop marketing? No. Put your shit in front of people's faces as often as you can, or get the hell out of the way because there's people behind you trying to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Polito has created. Oh, sorry. No, go, Travis.
I think it's important to find partners too. You know, you asked about COVID. Like, I did really well in the secondary comic book market. Like, the minute I couldn't do, Comic Cons, I hit those comic stores because you know what? They didn't have products. So while other people were crying and getting upset, I was in comic shows. I was on online auctions and they were talking about my product. I was continuing to get my stuff out there. And because of that, I have a brand new fan base. I have my retail levels skyrocketed in my next campaign because a lot of people are like, not only is this guy good, he also is a seller. And every time, like Michaela says, every time a comic store talks about my book, I am there in their chat forum talking about, hey, here's my book. Here's what it's about. If you have any questions, let me know. Because I'm there to help them sell it. It's not just going, hey, you sell my stuff. It's great. No, I'm there to help you sell it because I want to go to that next level with you, and you're going to help me do that.
Right. And it's not begging either. I mean, you believe in the product. You want as many people as possible to. I had a big name artist tell me that. I feel like I'm begging people to buy my book, and I already believe in the book, and I know that people will love the book. And I said, well, you know what? The reality is, if you're doing PR, it's like being an ant on New Year's Eve in Times Square going, hey, buy my book. It doesn't matter what kind of platform you have. You're not going to reach everybody. And so many people say, I didn't even know your book was for sale. And you're like, I've been promoting it 7 days a week for the past 6 months. How can you not know? So, yeah. And if we can find partners in that, people to work together with us, let's help each other,
I will say, and on that note, there is a way to make it look like begging. And that's when people just drop a link or they say, please support. No, it's not please support. It's, dude, I've got this thing. Check it out, and sell it.
Yes.
You gotta get behind it and get excited about it and talk about it. And so, it can be begging because people treat it that way. Don't say, please support my book. Don't say, oh, please help me fund. No, that's not what it's about. It's, please check out this awesome thing. If you like this, or you like these kinds of stories, you're going to love what we've got in store for you.
You got a P.T. Barnum it.
That's it, homie.
We got the show. Come on.
You and I got to talk more. I like you.
I got a question
the other thing
here.
is too, you got to keep.
Okay, go ahead.
I just had a question for Javier. It says, Javier, if you have a great idea for a scene that is different than what the writer wanted, do you bring it to them?
I do. I don't want to waste 3 hours developing this great page for the writer to shoot it down. So I also sometimes have a language situation as well, because they may express certain things from their neck of the woods that makes sense to them. But when I read it from my New York, Puerto Rican background, it's like, this makes no sense. So I do have to communicate with people, with writers, and advise them, listen, did you mean this? Because this sounds like you want me to put a hanger through the guy's head. I'm sure that's not what you meant. You meant like the guy's in a hangar with a helicopter behind him, right? He says, oh yeah, I forgot to put this word in. I edited it out. So, that saved me a lot of wasted effort. It's caught a lot of mistakes before they go to print. And, I don't want to do work that then the colorist is going to color, the inker's going to ink, and then somebody eventually says, whoa, somebody totally misread this. And it's a shame, because each one of us that's touching this material is an opportunity to make it better. The writer, of course, has first dibs, but it's not the only one that knows how to read. He's not the only one that knows about story and structure and drama. And me being the visual artist, I'm not the only one that knows about shadow and silhouettes and L shapes. The writer knows these concepts too, and so does the color artist as well. So, one of the things that I try to do very often is make sure I get buy-in from everybody. I'm not doing this to be a jerk. I'm not coming back to you because I want to criticize your writing or your coloring. I'm doing this because this represents me when I have no voice. It's the art. It's the final product. It's done. I can't defend it. It has to stand on its own. And if it's going to represent you and you and you and me, I got to do my best.
That's a good answer.
It is. And I guess the next question is, how do you deal with the barriers that can be brought up by someone who doesn't necessarily see the vision? Like, how do you get someone to see or understand how you're looking at it, since everybody's bringing their own, their own viewpoints to it?
You probably can't. If they're coming back to you with, this is the way it should be. If I'm the writer and somebody's coming back at me and saying this is the way it should be, that's a problem, because no, you're working for me, so it's going to be my way. You can present ideas. I'm always willing to listen to you from a thought process, conception standpoint. But if you're going to just stand your ground on your side of the fence and be like, no, I'm doing it this way, that's not going to work, because I need it my way, because at the end of the day, I have to sell the product.
Exactly. Yeah, and I had that happen to me one time. I just had to say, I love your work, but it's not going to work out. I didn't pull the "you're fired."
Yeah.
Hey, good luck with your adventures, and I'm going to have to go the separate way. I mean, it happens sometimes.
Sure.
Not everybody sees everything the same. So.
This is a weird thing. We've actually come full circle. This is where Catwoman is actually relevant. So sometimes you have a good idea that really, really works, and then you decide to enforce your vision it should be.
So
and you get Catwoman by Halle Berry. Yeah. You're welcome. It all circles together.
Right. Yep.
So, Tom, you want to talk about Big Dog Inc.?
Sure. How much time do we got left?
Oh, we have plenty of time.
Well, I'll take it all then. So, yeah, we started this 10 years ago. Penny for Your Soul was our first book that we put out. It sold out immediately. We went to a second print. We actually had some publishers interested in picking it up after that, and I was like, nah, we're just gonna keep going. And again, it was like, it's my way. It's my way now. Y'all had your chance. I pitched this stuff to all of you, and y'all said no. So now it's my way, and we're just going to keep doing it my way. Like I said, we've been doing this now for 10 years. For 4 years, we did it on our own. We moved to Aspen Comics for 3 years. They became our publisher for 3 years, which was an amazing experience to be able to work with all of those guys and sort of learn from within, from a company that had been around themselves at that point for like 15 years. So we probably would have still been with them had they not gone the Hollywood route. And then we had to figure out, okay, well, what do we do now? We can go back into Diamond and kind of, do the same thing that we've been doing, but the market's changing and retail shops aren't the same and the experience isn't the same. And so I decided that it was time to just go the Kickstarter route and go direct to customer. We did that now 4 years ago. This month, we started Kickstarters. We brought Penny for Your Soul back with a new volume. And it was a huge hit. I was told to my face, because what we wanted to do was we wanted to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 through Kickstarter. And I was told by people who had done Kickstarters, they told me, like, you can't do that. It will not work. Your attrition rates will be horrendous and it's not going to work. And I was like, nothing you're telling me makes any sense, because this is a completely different setup when you're selling direct to customer versus selling to a distributor who then sells to retailers, who then sells to customers. It doesn't work the same way. So when we went from issue 1 all the way to issue 7, when we got to issue 7, we had doubled everything that we had done by the time from when we started at issue 1. Doubled the backers, doubled the money, everything. And it was a great experience. And since then, that's been the Big Dog Inc. Way of doing things. We're not in retail stores anymore. Well, we are, but we deal directly with retailers. Any folks that want to carry our stuff, we deal direct with them, and we just sell it right to them. There's no diamond, there's no middleman. It's just us to them. And
you have stuff here in Florida that you know of?
What's that?
Do you have stuff here in the stores in Florida?
I don't think we have anything in Florida. No, at least not directly from us. I mean, there might be guys that are finding it in elsewhere places, but it would just be old product. So as far as new stuff, no, I don't know any stores that we're dealing with in Florida right now. It's very sparse. I mean, we're not in comic book stores everywhere, like not by a long shot, but somehow we're still growing. Kickstarter is huge for us. I gave up cons. We were talking about the COVID thing. I gave up cons basically 2 years ago. I was like, I'm just not going to do them anymore. We were doing 20 plus a year. I'm now down to doing like 5. And of those 5, 3 of them are invitations. They tell me, hey, come, we'll take care of you. I'm like, yep, I'll be there. If you want to invite me, I will be there. We'll make your show awesome. And then I pay to go to a few shows like C2E2 Emerald City, because I know that those shows are good for us because they're still comic shows. But I gave up shows a couple of years ago and started doing online live sales a year and a half before COVID even existed. So by the time COVID came around and everybody was like, what do we do? I was like, well, I told you guys what to do. I've been doing this for a year and a half. I told you to do this last year. I started a group called the Artist Alley Shopping Network that is attached to the group that I'm a part of, which is the Comic Book Shopping Network, where it's for artists to go on there, do their thing. They sell their books, they sell their prints, they do live drawing, they connect with their fans every single week. It's basically like a television show. They have their day and their time, and they jump on for 2 hours, and it's them and the fans doing what they do together. And that has grown by leaps and bounds. There's like almost 2,000 people on there now. There's like 15 artists that are doing it at any given day. So I was trying to tell people last year, like, guys, you got to start managing your own fan bases. You can't be relying on Diamond and retailers and conventions, because that's too loosey-goosey. There's no reason not to not do them, because obviously it can expose your work to people that would not have heard of it. But like we talked about with these groups, I mean, I'm seeing artists that I would have never found at cons because they're not at cons. I mean, some of these guys are around the world. The internet has changed everything. And if anything comes out of this COVID thing from the creative side, the silver lining is it forced everybody to kind of figure out, oh, how else can we do this? And for the most part, the industry has really risen to the occasion. And it's been really great to watch these guys, grow into this new marketing method. And I hope that when the cons do come back, whenever they come back, that they don't just fall back into old habits, that they continue to use all of this, because this is how it works now. And it's been tremendous for us.
Would you say then Kickstarter and Amazon is the future of both books and comics?
I don't know about Amazon. We barely use Amazon at all. But Kickstarter is a very easy, direct way to find people that are looking for what you make. Amazon, you're going through a million things. I mean, obviously they can go to Amazon and type in a specific thing. I want this book. There it is. Buy it. But as far as just like a general search, like a general, how do we find things that we've never heard of? Kickstarter is great because people are there for comics already. And then they can just start scrolling through. Oh, this thing's end. They can click it. What's ending soon? Oh, this looks cool. Let me back it. What's popular? Oh, this is popular. This looks cool. Let me back it. Kickstarter, and this goes with Indiegogo as well. I mean, just crowdfunding in general. It's a very, very direct access point to people who want what it is that you're making. Amazon is there's just so much that it's really hard to kind of filter through it all. For us, it's always been just direct. It's the website store sales, which are going through the roof right now. I have no idea why, outside of just the basic grassroots growth. But all of a sudden, our web store sales are going through the roof, and it's people that are, because I do all the Kickstarter stuff. I know these are not Kickstarter people. These are not people that are on my live shows. This is a completely different group of names that are finding these books. And growth is everywhere as long as you just keep putting yourself out there.
Do you get a lot of support from your local comic stores?
No.
No?
No. Here's the reality for comic shops. There's about 2,500 comic shops in America. Roughly 500 of them will buy indie comics in any sort of real capacity. So that's next to nothing. There's others. Then from there, you take the next step where there's a lot of shops that will buy stuff for the people that are asking for it, like the pull list, hey, I want this big dog book. They'll buy one copy for that one customer, and then that's all they'll do. And then the rest of the shops don't even bother. They are Marvel, they are DC, they are, properties that people understand, My Little Pony, Transformers, whatever. Then there's the smaller group of the local guys that you can create your own interaction with. Like I said, we deal direct with a bunch of stores because they're not necessarily even local, but they're just stores that I've been to, and they're like, yeah, dude, we want to keep carrying your stuff. So I keep sending them stuff. So it's not impossible to go into a store and be like, hey, I've got this book. Do you take consignment? Sometimes is how they do it. Sometimes they'll just buy it outright, put it on the shelf. But when we started, a lot of what we were hearing was, oh, if you're not in Diamond, we can't carry your book. And I was like, well, I'm in Diamond, so you don't have an excuse. And they were like, what do you mean you're in Diamond? I'm like, I'm in Diamond, dude. Get the catalog. I'll show you. But if you're not in Diamond, if you're literally not in Diamond, there's a lot of stores that'll just be like, no, I can't even begin to figure out what to do with you if you're not in the system that we understand. So, that's just kind of the realities of it. There are definitely good independent comic book retailers. There are definitely good local shops that'll be like, hey, we'll support our local guys. But if you guys are local in New York and I'm from Michigan and I go to that New York store and I'm like, hey, do you want to carry my books? And they say, are you local? And I say no, and they don't care anymore. What am I supposed to do? So it's always kind of hit and miss. But the more you can corral your own fan base and grow it slowly on your own through email lists and through your marketing and through your Kickstarters and through whatever it is that you do, the more you can control your own fan base and connect with them like immediately. Like I turned my phone on, look, all my fans can find me. That's how you'll start to see growth on your own without having to lean on anybody else.
And I just thought of this question right now as I was listening to you. And this goes to Michaela as well, do you guys feel like the bigger names, like in the comic book world, that Marvel and DC are holding, like pushing the indies like down so that people are paying attention to them? And the same thing as for like novels, are the bigger publishing houses trying to like, do the same with the indie publishers?
Well, Marvel and DC are not here for the industry. They're there for themselves. They are Warner Brothers, they are Disney. They're there to make their buck and make their movies. So they don't really you're not really going to see a lot of stuff from Marvel or DC talking about the industry as a whole, because they don't want anybody to know that there's Image and Dark Horse and Boom and Scout and Valiant and whatever else. They don't want you guys to know that stuff exists. So they're really not a hindrance nor a help. They're just there. But what you see a lot in all of the marketing stuff for comics in the industry is you'll see guys like Boom and IDW and Scout and Vault and all these other companies. They are getting a lot of press right now because they want to talk about growing the industry. And that's a great thing. And I applaud all of them. And I always talk about the industry as a whole. I mean, there's so much that can be done to elevate what we do, but there's also a lot of ego and a lot of jealousy and people that don't realize that a rising tide lifts all the ships. They're only concerned about their ship, and that's problematic.
Yeah, it's the same way.
I love that you said that. No.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
It's the same with romance books. The big guys don't even notice us. If they do, it's something like, you can't use that book title, and there's a lawsuit. It's always ridiculous stuff. But no, they don't, like he said, they don't want people to know that there are independently published authors out there. They want you to buy this set of Harlequin romance novels that they put out, They want the big name people that have published 40, 50, 60 books. So, yeah, they don't notice us.
I love that you mentioned the other studios there, Tom, because one of the things that I loved was recently, I don't know if you guys keep your eyes on Kickstarter too much, but Keanu Reeves came on there, and that was the big thing. Keanu Reeves has a book through Boom, and it's going to be on there, and there was an awful lot of, the sky is falling, and it really was kind of silly, to be honest, because really all it did was bring a lot more backers in, and I remember one of my good buddies, Kyron Silva, he had his book up, and I was checking out Berserker, which is the title that Keanu had worked on. And when you went all the way to the bottom, there was several independent comics underneath that it was showcasing it. And one of it was my buddy's comic. And I was like, dude, You can't pay for that kind of advertising. That's ridiculous. That's amazing. And that's why Kickstarter is so amazing. And what Boom did when they went off, and this was just like 2 or 3 days ago, I think, is they said, you know what, like, we appreciate what you guys do. We appreciate you indies. And they infused, I think it was like $100 into a bunch of different campaigns and just went, here you go.
Yeah.
Here you go. We love what you do. And then they announced those titles that they did that to. And that was awesome. Now, mine wasn't one of them, but you don't see me over here like, well, but I'm not like complaining about that.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's not about me. It's not about my title. They supported indie, which is still supporting me in a way. So I'm happy. I think they did great. I think that was a really awesome move, and I have mad respect. I've never read a Boom book before, but I will keep my eyes out for Boom books because I respect that. That was a really cool move.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And Russell, do you want to go ahead and talk about your podcast and your studio there?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, I started Art Exposure. It was one of my big things that I wanted to do to try to give back to some of the indie artists, friends that I have that have never been on social media. I mean, they exist on social media and they'll post, hey, I did this drawing, it's for sale. But they don't really put themselves out there to do live shows to bring people in to watch their work. And 10 years ago, I started writing these books. And so I guess going back, so 10 years ago, I started writing these books. I started writing Xeno Nanite Titan. And I got the outline and all the pillars set up. I got everything done. I was writing it. I was like, this is going to be awesome. And then life got in the way, you know. We had our first kid, and he had open heart surgery at a week old. So that I was like, I'll work on it when we're in the hospital. Then, you know, I got in there. I was frustrated. I just didn't feel like doing it. So I was like, all right, I'll do it when we get home. And then it was just surgery after surgery. He went in at 11 months, had a cardiac cath. He had another open heart surgery. We had another kid, and I was like, whatever, I'm not going to do this anymore. So I started Art Exposure a little over 2 years ago, and I'm like pushing other artists. I actually just got one of my good friends, Ed Williams, with Ed's Artworks. After 2 years, he went live on my show and drew live for the first time, and it was awesome. And it felt great to finally push him to that point that he was comfortable to share his work. So over these 2 years that I've pushed these artists to go live, I've had pushback of, well, why are you in this industry and what do you do? And I'm like, well, you know, I've wrote these books, but this has happened. And they're like, no, you should totally write the book. And I'm like, all right, yeah, you know, I'll think about it. Well, in January, I found out I may have cancer, and that was a big deal to me. It was like, you know, I've got kids, you know, I've got everything I've ever wanted in life. What do I regret the most? And I regretted not putting my books out there, not taking a chance on myself and saying, this is what I want to do. So February rolled around, and I'm like, all right, here's Russ Explode Studios. I'm writing a book. If you guys want to get on and do, so I had these 10 artists that I had all these pillars laid out for my book, and I had the 10 artists, and I'm like, here, this is the piece you want to do. Here's your section of the book. You know, and I use their pieces to inspire me to do stuff with the book as well. And I was like, you know, why don't we go live and do a show together and get other people to see your work? Well, that grew into, after like the second show, I had people messaging me saying, hey, when can I be on your show? And I'm like, well, you know, I'm not really wanting to do a show, but hey, whatever, you know, we can roll with it. So that's kind of how Russ Explode Studios came to be. It was, you know, my last ditch effort to do something that I really regretted because I didn't know what was going to happen this year. I did find out 3 weeks ago that I do not have cancer, finally, after 9 months. So that was a great thing, but it was the motivation to push me to finally to do my dream. And that's what matters. It inspired me to take from the bad and do something good. And I'm super excited about it. And not only that, I've met great friends. It's been great having some of these creators and these artists on my show because I'm meeting people that down the road I can work with, you know, on book 2 and on book 3. And I'm hoping through, you know, doing the live shows and going out there and putting my book and my work out there, somebody along the lines will read it and say, I love this story. I love the direction that it's going in. I heard you want to make a comic. I want to work with you on it. I mean, that's kind of like my end goal with the whole thing. So it's been a lot of fun. And, you know, I've met several people over the last 3 and 4 years being in the industry, and I use those people to kind of help me grow this and get their work, as well as help them try to get my work out there and push my first book. So it's been a real exciting journey meeting these people.
Yeah, I love this community. I keep a lot of like-minded people on my friends list, and I've met a lot of great artists and writers, and I just love to see their journey. And speaking of someone that I love their journey, he has just joined us, Mark Guano Guy Darden. How you doing?
Hey guys,
Good to see you.
I'm doing all right. It's it's been quite the battle. A few days. Oh boy, Lugo.
Yeah. So, Mark, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah, I'm the writer for the Guano Guy, which is a very jokey comic book. It's like a cartoon on paper for kids and adults, and it's just a really fun book. Just wrapped up the most recent Kickstarter last night, and it was quite the battle as times are different, and a lot of people got a different financial situation than they had last year. So, but also a lot of people pulled through, spreading the word and supporting and encouraging, and we got across the line. And I'm just looking to finish the book up and get those copies printed and get them out to people, and look forward to come back bigger, better next year.
Yeah. I love your elevator pitch of that this is the Seinfeld of comics.
Yeah, it's like Seinfeld with superpowers. You know, they're all jerks, but they don't know it. And I mean, a superhero doesn't really care about saving you. He just wants to be famous for it. Like, ho ho, I know you're trapped under that car, but I need you to hold on. I'm waiting for the camera crew.
I was just saying, it kind of sounds like a certain Amazon show that just ended their second season.
A little less malicious, but yeah. It's quite a bit more good-natured than that. Much more lovable in their jerkness. Yeah. And no one dies. There's no murder. We don't have any gore. There's no cussing.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Sorry if you were hoping to turn the page and see just bodies flying. We always got bean bags out there for them to land safely. Everyone parachutes from the jet and lands in the water. It's always okay.
So it's G.I. Joe meets Seinfeld.
It's very old G.I. Joe kind of action, very A-Team sort of action.
So you have no Homelander type character? No.
Thank God.
So I have a question for everyone here. What advice would you give to someone who wants to get started? And I guess we'll start with you, Michaela.
Do it.
Just do it. Start whatever it is that you planned on starting. Don't listen to the naysayers. Just do it. If it makes you happy, do it. Whether it's art or writing or whatever, just do it.
Yeah, I think we're all probably going to say the same thing there. It's starting is starting. Just start. It's probably going to suck, but everybody sucks when they start. I even right now I'm editing. We started with Critter 10 years ago, and I'm editing this script to kind of redo the lettering and so on for this hardcover edition. And I'm reading this old script that's 10 years old, and I'm like, dear God, what is this? Why am I even putting this back out onto the market? Because it's just not what we are now on issue 25. But that's what creative is. You're going to grow from probably crap into less crap, and eventually into something that's pretty decent. But you just have to keep going.
I would say there's two aspects, and do is obviously the hugest. You can't go anywhere unless you do it. The other one is learn. If there's a lot of creators that you see coming up and you see making some moves and stuff, why don't you get in contact with them? Ask some questions. A lot of us are very open to giving you our stories and giving you any of the wisdom that we've accrued, or even pointing you towards someone who might be able to help you more because they understand a little more of your viewpoint and where you're coming from. So certainly asking questions. One of my favorite things is when you're at a show or you're, just even tooling around Facebook and whatnot, someone getting in contact with you and just saying, I like what you do. I really appreciate your journey and I'm trying to make my own. What kind of advice do you have, or how would you do this or that, or look into that? I mean, that stuff's huge and most of us are willing to help out.
Would you recommend
yeah, that's the thing.
like
Just
taking classes? I was gonna say
just do it and surround yourself with good people. That's the main thing. Do it and find people that are going to help support you. If you don't have a group of people that you're working with or that you bring in on your project that are willing to support you, you're not going to get anywhere. So that's the biggest thing. Start it and find people that are willing to help you along the way.
Yeah, taking classes and stuff like that, that's all motivational stuff. I mean, even if you're not necessarily, I don't want to say you're not learning something, but if you're around people that are doing it, and you can watch kind of and listen to how they're doing it, like, hey, I'm in a writer's, well, I'm not anymore because of COVID, but I was in a writer's group at the library that they would meet once a month. And there's people there that are all writing novels and stuff. I'm the only one writing comics, but it's interesting to hear how these people tackle their own individual, like we talked about the writer's block and so on. It's interesting to listen to how all these people tackle all of the different creative problems that they might have, or the business problems that they might have from publishing themselves or whatever. So you can go to learn, like take a class, learn to draw, whatever. But I think most of that is just motivation to pour into yourself, to just keep going, so that the next time you show up to class, you're a little bit more ahead from where you were the last time.
I have a couple things that I think are very important that no one touched on. One is, don't pretend you're somebody you're not. Don't pretend to be at a higher level than you're not. Don't put money into your Kickstarter like in a whole bunch of times. Don't try to level yourself up or get yourself at, hey, I'm in all these stores or this and that, even though the reason why you're in all those stores is because you mailed out one copy to every store. Like, don't pretend you are where you're not, because nobody buys it. Nobody buys it, and people think that it works, and it never works. Know where you're at your craft. Have people who you respect help you build you and get you to that next level, help you to go where you need to go. There's tons of people in this community who really, really want to take your side, and help you get to where you need to go. Find those people and let them. Two, make sure that your vision and what you're trying to do is marketable. That's another thing. A lot of people will do something, throw it out, and they'll be like, nobody wants to read it. Well, it doesn't appeal to the masses, right? I know that I could sell more comics if I had more boobs on it. So I need to be okay with selling where I'm at, right? And there's nothing wrong with selling boobs in the comics. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's just building your market, knowing where your niche is, right? I write crime. Every publisher has one crime book, and half of them get canceled every year. So I have to know where my tops are. And you can find out this information and then build what that is. All right, now I'm trying to figure out where my niche is and where am I on that pile, instead of putting yourself against, Brian Pulido, like we talked about earlier. Don't put yourself on that pile, because you're going to lose. And you're going to get frustrated. You're not going to make it. So let's not pretend. Let's try to get where you're at now to try to get to the next level. And actually, the last thing that I want to say, and what pisses me off the most, because this is going to affect, invest in yourself. If you're not willing to invest in yourself, I'm not willing to invest in you. Don't, start a GoFundMe. Don't do this other thing. Invest in yourself. Put the effort in, Don't try to do it for free. Invest in yourself. I know you're in a financial situation or this and that. Everyone is. Find someone who can invest in your idea if you have to. But you not willing to put in the effort, like I've seen Kickstarters where it's literally the cover. And they're like, why did nobody fund it? Because it was just a cover. You didn't have anything. You have to have a comic to sell a comic. It's that simple. You have to have a novel to sell a novel. And hold on. I've got one more rant. Novels are the worst. Have you ever seen a novel on Kickstarter? Literally, you're the only person involved, and you're like, I will write this if you give me $20,000. I will write it. Just so you know, I will write it if you give me $20,000. But if you don't, I'm not willing to write it. So just see.
It's the Game of Thrones method. No, really, I will write it one day. I will.
Right. I'll write it soon if you give me $20,000.
Meanwhile, I'm writing other things.
Yeah.
Would
So,
you guys be willing? I'm sorry, Brian.
I was just going to ask Michaela. I know you write novels, but are you a fan of comics? I mean, would you be interested in writing comics?
We won't be offended.
I used to say no, but that's a lie because growing up, Garfield was one of my favorites. And my Garfield comic book was horrible. It looked like a teenage kid's porno. It was pages falling out, pages sticking together. I love Garfield. But then I met my husband and he was like, Garfield's okay, but Calvin and Hobbes is better. And I was like, what? So I had to learn what Calvin and Hobbes was. So I like comics. I'm just not, it's not my kink. It's,
But I think that's the point,
And
is
that's
that
perfectly fine.
when you're talking about, when Travis is talking about find people that can, be real and know where your niche is, that's part of it. It's like, I don't write that. It's not what I do, but I can support and love and enjoy all of these other things too.
Well, and the other thing is I learn a lot from you guys. I mean, you comic creators and you artists, there's a shit ton I can learn from you guys. Because when I went into this novel thing, I knew I had to have a cover. Did I know how to make one? Did I know what went into making one? Not a freaking clue. But talking to artists and talking to even graphic design artists, you learn so much of this stuff. And then you learn like, yeah, that's out of my league. You do that. I'll write the words. You make the pretty. But there's so much. And even if it's on a business aspect of it, like you were talking with Big Dog Inc., there's a lot in the business part of it that I can take little parts of it from you and go, that worked for him. I can tweak it and put it over here and make it work for me. And if you don't learn that stuff from your network, you're an idiot. I'm sorry. You have to learn from the people around you. And if you're not, those aren't your people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Totally agreed.
I was gonna say,
Have you
cut the nerve there.
Have you guys considered working with the cosplay community and getting us to dress up as your characters' dream
Oh, this is Tom's question.
That happens all the time. In fact, we just did a Kickstarter that just ended where we had a cosplay contest for the Kickstarter, and we had 10 entries that joined the Kickstarter or the cosplay contest. So yeah, no, it's a huge thing. It's always better from how do I say this? It's I don't know how to say it. It's awesome when you're at a con and somebody just like walks up and they're your character, because your mind explodes because you're like, oh my God, I didn't know this was going to happen. This is crazy. It looks so cool. But when we announced the cosplay contest, we had no idea what was going to happen. We could get no people involved. We could get 100 people, whatever. We had no clue what to expect. We had no clue what quality level to expect. And all of them came out like guns a-blazing. I mean, it was unbelievable what these guys did. And more importantly, this isn't Wonder Woman and Batman and Superman. These are three characters that no one knows who the hell they are. But from the design standpoint and from the excitement level that we generated for the event, they went all in. It was crazy. And I could not, I bow to all of them. They did such a fantastic job. We're still tallying up all the votes because the backers got to vote for the cosplay winner, and whoever wins is we're going to put her on a cover, and she wins $500 as well. So, yeah, it's super, super fun to do it. We've been doing it almost since the beginning of Big Dog Inc. We've had cosplayers just show up as Dorothy from our Oz book, various characters from our Penny for Your Soul. We have Critter cosplayers. I mean, it's Critter has gotten to a point. We did a cover Nia Ruffino did a cover where Critter is sitting there eating a Pop-Tart. It was basically a little Nyan cat nod from that little meme from back in the day. But it became a thing. And so now when people know that there's cosplayers as Critter at cons, they come and bring her Pop-Tarts. So it's become, a community thing 100%. And it's crazy fun. And they all do such a great job.
And as someone who goes to the con to monetize the cosplayers, that's the secret, right? Like cosplayers are known to not spend any money because they spent $1 bajillion on making the dress. So, like, to anybody who can do it, I bow to them. Like, that's it's way out of my league.
See, I tend to spend more money at Comic-Con in the artist alley, I love supporting the local comic book industry as well in my city. I tend to cosplay on a budget.
Sure.
Because I know when Comic-Con comes, I'm going to be spending a shit ton of money.
Travis, I was going to ask, has anybody cosplayed as...
Sure, it's humbling when you see somebody walk up.
No, nobody's cosplays as any of my characters. I mean, they're kind of just gangsters. I mean, Chuck's pretty gangster. I mean, he cosplays that a little bit, but no. But again, it's a different market. Like if I did more of a superhero realm, I would be targeting the cosplayer community on a regular basis. And eventually they made cosplay as my stuff. And every book's different. This one, Voodoo Nations, I've had more people refer it and do fan art, so the character resonates with people more than my regular, other characters. It's okay. Every book is different, and trying to figure out what that looks like, and just finding their own niches. I'm okay with having a different fan base for Voodoo Nations and Broke Down, and I'm sure Tom has the same way, from Critter to Penny for My Soul to Oz. It's okay to have different fan bases and trying to build each one of them up, because 1 out of 10 is going to be, I need everything. So that's what you're trying to get.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
we have a dog that wants to be part of the show.
The children are quiet. The dog has to take center stage.
No problem with the dog.
But this has been super fun talking about your guys' work and indie creation life and all that. But I guess I kind of lied about, stepping away from our normal topics. So are you guys okay with talking about movies for a little bit?
No. None of us here like movies. What are you talking about?
Oh, good. Here's the thing.
I feel
It's not even an art, man.
Here's the question. If somebody approached you to make your comic or your creation, would you be willing to step into that venture?
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah. We almost had The Legend of Oz picked up as a TV show. It was crazy how fast it happened, and then it was crazy how fast it all crumbled.
Oh, wow.
But that's the guy that was helping us sell it. He was like, "Yeah, dude, that's Hollywood. I mean, you are on top, and you are ready to go one day, and the very next day, the doors are all closed." I was like, "Well, okay, then we'll just keep making comics, and that'll be fine, I guess." But yeah, no, we've even thought about doing like Kickstarters to create like pilots, and be able to pitch pilots around, or at minimum, have a Blu-ray to sell on the a table at a con. Here's this, here's that. So yeah, no, 100%. That's a real thing. I mean, that's what people know. People that are there's millions of people that are going and watching the Avengers. There are not millions of people coming and buying Avengers comics. So it's a completely different audience. That if you can get your toes in that pool, I mean, you should do it.
So are you okay with the things that follow that, as far as changes to?
Well, that's variable, and that's you making your deals. Like, I know that there's some creators that have just been like, dude, just sell it, make your money. They're going to jack it up, but it's going to put money in your pocket and you can make it better the next time. Like, I've had people tell me that. And then there's folks that are like, now I'm going to blank on their names, but they had more control. Like, that was their deal. Like, yes, you can make this thing, but I get more control than normal because I need it to become what I want it to be too. So you as the owner of the IP, you have the power because you can say yes or no, and get yourself a lawyer and have them look at the contract, and you know, if they're going to make something that you don't like, make sure in your contract you have it say, look, you get some yes or no's as far as, I don't know, designs or costumes or whatever you need, whatever you're worried about. Just put that into your contract, and there you go.
Starting to think you guys don't like Catwoman. That's what I'm starting to think. No, of course
It really depends on the version of Catwoman, though.
For me, my background is in film, so when I write to be sold. Like I try to write it so there's no reason to change it. You know, unless you had to. I try to write that to lower the budget, to make sure everything's like, I write as if I could, all right, what could I direct? The reason why I stopped doing film is eventually I was like, I am not James Cameron, right? I'm not going to go, all right, I need blue people in this strange fauna and these strange things that I've never came up. I'm not that dude. So I write what I could make. Like, what if I was a director, here is what I could do, like end of list, without hiring a special effects crazy crew.
Well, I've told Travis this, that I've always thought that Broke Down and 4 Dead Bodies would be a perfect show for streaming, especially for like Netflix or Amazon. It's like totally made for that. And seeing some of Big Dog Inc. stuff, I totally I see them as a streaming show rather than a motion picture on screen, just because you can stretch it out and tell more story. Which Amazon is doing with the Lord of the Rings thing, which, you know, those movies were great, but I think we're going to see the Lord of the Rings mythology spread out through their series. If you had to pick one of your works from Big Dog Inc., what's the one that like stands out the most that you would want to see as a show?
I want a Critter animated series. That's the right answer. But the real answer needs to be something that would appeal to the general audience, which would be the Legend of Oz. The Western Oz would be, I think, an easy sell, and that's why we almost had it sold as quickly as we did. But what happened was as we got up the ladder of yeses and yeses and yeses and yeses, we got to the top where people had to make the final yeses, and we had one guy who was like, Westerns don't sell. This was, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Westerns don't sell. I'm like, are you out of your mind? Are you seeing what's happening? Everything is a Western now. Even when it's science fiction, it's still a freaking Western, dude. Blended then with steampunk and all this other stuff, it would be an easy sell. But he was like, yeah, Westerns don't sell. And then the other guy was like, yeah, I don't get it. And I'm like, well, read the comic book, dummy. It's a stupid living storyboard. What else can I do for you? You know, but literally it was, I don't get it. I don't understand. And so it all tumbled down and away it went. But I think
I don't know why they would tell you Westerns don't sell. Has anybody not seen the remake of 310 to Yuma?
Well, and I mean, you know, Quentin Tarantino makes Westerns, and you had The Quick and the Dead, and you had Tombstone, and you had
Westworld.
Let's be specific. Crappy Westerns don't sell. But if you make a good Western, you know, there is a market for it. I mean, even Star Wars, we've talked about, you know, Star Wars is essentially a Western in space. So, you know, even from just a conceptual standpoint, the idea of Westerns works. And then when you blend it with an existing IP that people understand, which is Oz, we've had a huge response, even from the Oz community from this. So, you know, it took a while for us to kind of break in because of all the traditionalists. They're like, no, the movie is it. Boo, the original books, boo. But, you know, we just kept coming back and coming back and coming back. And now even the traditionalists are like, oh, no, this is cool. All right, I get it now. So, you know, anything can be done. You just have to decide that you want to do it.
I love the context of Westerns don't work, and yet Firefly is one of the most requested shows to come back to TV.
Right. Yeah, another Western in space, yeah.
That's Will Smith's fault. He did
well,
one
and you had Deadwood that was on TV for a long time. There's all kinds of TV shows that are what's the one with the train?
Westworld.
Westworld is another thing. Yeah, I mean, it's just again,
Snowpiercer?
what the guy told me was not every ladder is going to reach the right people, and so if you get to the top and they're not the right people, you move to the next ladder and you try it again, and eventually you find the right people that are like, yeah, I get it, I understand what this is, let's go, and then you're off to the races.
Yeah, and I did read the post comment about Godzilla, and somebody said that we wanted to talk about Godzilla, right? You wanted to know everybody's favorite Godzilla movie?
I don't know what you're talking about, sir.
Well, Chuck, let me tell you, it is not the '98 Godzilla.
Well, you're allowed to be wrong, Brian, so that's okay. I don't have an issue with that.
I liked that one. Okay.
See, I had Tom on back in July for our Godzilla episode, which was a fun episode.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
Oh, we got super nerdy on that episode.
That was like of a 2-hour block. That was like one of the best 2-hour blocks of my lifetime. That was so much fun.
But in all seriousness, do you guys have any like favorite movie genres, or you guys like it pretty much everything?
I don't like the chick flicks, but like we call them blow me up, kill me. So action. It's got to have action. Ironic.
Science fiction, yeah.
Comedy.
I tend to go more towards something that's got a little bit more action, comedy, that kind of stuff. But I'll tell you, anything with a good story. I've watched chick flicks where I was like, oh crap, you did a really good job. Like that really brought me in. So no, like man, I mean, if you get those components together and you really make it work, literally anything could bring me in because you put the right pieces together and you did it. Good for you.
And Chuck, you're talking about The Notebook, right?
That movie I never saw. Yeah,
no. He's talking about Shallow Hal. He's a big Jack.
I am talking.
Oh, wow.
Everyone loves it. For me, it's crime. I love crime. They don't make enough of it. It's funny.
Crime doesn't sell, Travis. Crime doesn't sell.
I know. I understand.
No, that crime doesn't pay.
So Travis, you're big into like Dick Tracy and that type, or
No. Modern day crime stuff. You've got to do like
Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels,
or Lock, Stock, or or Reservoir Dogs, or
Heat.
Any of that stuff.
Heat is great.
Even less of extent Go. Have you seen The Gentleman, the last Guy Ritchie film, when he stopped doing Sherlock Holmes and actually did what he's good at?
I have not seen The Gentleman. I've been wanting to see that one.
The Gentleman is such a good movie.
It is so good, and that's the stuff I'm attracted to, like Sons of Anarchy or The Mayans, or like those are the TV shows that I watch. Sopranos, anything that gives me ongoing, I love people. I'm gonna get a little personal here. I come from a drug and alcohol family. There's a lot of heavy drug and alcohol in my family. So for me, watching someone in this horrible situation who I believe is redeemable, because I've met many drug addicts who are like, he's a good person. He just makes really stupid decisions on a regular basis, and trying to figure out that. So my heart goes out to that. I really relate to that, and that's what turns me on to that.
Yeah, I'm pretty wide open. I've watched all kinds of crap. I mean, this is actually what just came in the mail. So I have a steelbook fetish apparently now. I didn't know that this was a thing, but I have to buy steelbooks all the time. So there's King Kong versus Godzilla.
Nice.
Galaxy Quest. And Christmas Vacation. So that's the most recent.
Nice.
That's the most recent acquisitions here. Oh, and of course the Friday the 13th Blu-ray thing that just came out. So.
Oh yeah, and speaking of that, you're gonna have to send your disc back for replacements.
Yeah, they had three goofy discs apparently. So you need to check out all those three things and make sure that they're good or bad.
Yeah. So have you had a chance to deep dive in that set yet?
I've only done the first two movies so far. I was gonna do a third last night, but then Chuck woke me up and was like, "Dude, let's do a show." And I couldn't watch part 3 last night because Chuck kept me awake.
That sounds like something I would do. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I did watch, but I did watch the on episode 2 on Friday the 13th part 2. I did watch the cut scenes, the 40-year-old missing Gore stuff, which was kind of fun to see, especially the one where he takes the ice pick and puts it through her head. And then it comes out down here through her nose. I was like, oh my God, that's a great scene. That was so crazily good. But I can understand why they pulled it back in 1982 or whatever it was. Yeah.
Remember, that was 3D. So, like, that would have been not so.
Part 2.
Okay.
Part 2 wasn't 3D. That was 3D.
Oh, I thought you were talking about part 3. Okay.
No, I didn't get to 3 yet. I've seen them all. I've had the DVDs and so on, but I was like, all right, this will be the last time I ever buy these things in my lifetime. So I'll have a nice clean Blu-ray set, plus with all these extras. A lot of this stuff, like all the commentary and everything, it's all things I've never heard. So that'll be cool to be able to go back in and listen to Sean Cunningham and all these guys talk about these things. So I'm excited to get into it, but I want to kind of just run the movies first and remind myself what the hell these things were, and then we'll go into all the extras.
Yeah, see, I'm a huge supporter of physical media because of the special features and stuff like that.
Yes. Coming from the person who's moved them 8 times.
But
I'm very bitter. You know what? Physical media is going to be the death of me. Quite literally.
I'm sorry.
Hey, folks, I got to take off. I get back to some stuff, but thank you very much for having me on. And Nicole and Brian, I want to do something together again in the near future.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Bye, Mark.
You're always welcome on my
See you,
show,
bud.
too.
Good luck, Mark.
Bye.
Bye, Mark.
Thanks much. Bye.
Yeah, this has been a super fun show. I mean, I don't know if you guys have to go soon or if you just want to sit and chat a little bit longer. Or
I do. I actually have the cable guy coming to fix my internet because it's shitty.
Hey, but you know what? You're the only person that was able to stay on the duration of the show. So,
Holy crap!
That's
Yeah,
not true.
Because she's in America heaven. That's
No, I'm not. No, I'm in America hell. I live in
He's in
Illinois.
America. I'm in
Oh.
America. Hell.
I'm in America hell.
Ohio?
where's that?
No, Illinois, where we have Putker for a governor.
You guys have Chicago. It's all right.
Yeah, Chicago and Putker.
Putz,
Yeah.
I don't
Okay,
even
I'm
know what the
sorry.
other one is.
You live in a place
Chicago.
where "duh" is in the word Florida.
Well,
Well, before we let everybody go, is there something that you want to plug that's going on right now? And we'll start with you, Michaela.
just Warrior Secret needs some more reviews. So, you know, if you could find that at Amazon or Barnes and Noble or wherever, that'd be great.
Yeah, I know that Nicole said that she's interested in reading Warrior Secret.
I love paranormal everything.
Well, and I couldn't stick to just paranormal, so it's historical. And for some reason, that throws people off. They're like, "Oh, wait, no, I can't. It's historical." Who cares?
Yeah, but that's
But if you
that's
don't
not part of
understand
it
history,
all.
you're doomed to repeat it. So figure it out.
Right.
people.
Right? No shit. Yeah.
What about you, Chuck?
Oh, geez. I feel like you're putting me on the spot. No, I don't really have anything. Belial is the original creator of hell. And Belial is the original creator of hell, and he has to go and he has to take on the 4 horsemen in order to get all of his powers back so he can take on Lucifer and take back hell. It's on Kickstarter right now, and soon, as of November 1st, there's going to be another excellent Kickstarter for a novel entitled Essence House. And it is a time travel epic about a family who has whose house was destroyed some 25 years ago, only to find out now that that house hid some insane secrets that will dictate the adventures to come. And I am a part of another thing, but I'm going to let my boy Travis talk about that because he needs to talk too, man. He's been very silent this whole time. And, you know, and the fact that Catwoman sucks is rough on him. So let's give him a win, guys. Help him out. Help
All
him
right,
out.
Travis, go ahead.
I'm just Holly Berry was so good as Storm, and I just don't understand Catwoman, you know? And
It made sense on paper.
That's an engineer talking.
So I just wrapped up fulfillment on Voodoo Nation. So if you want to order that, you can order that on voodoonations.com. You know, we're launching issue 4 of this soon, so you might want to get broke down. You got to broke down for that body. But what I have going on, I have got 30 of my best creators, whoever I knew who was talented, and who would work with me to do Cthulhu Invades the Wizard of Oz. So basically, it's all one continuous story. It's in an anthology form. You can go to CthulhuInvades.com to check it out. And basically what it is we take every character in Oz and what happens if Cthulhu invaded and how they would respond in an original story. It's all actually set in the same continuity. We have people from Scout, we have people from Aftershock, we have people from Image, we have people from Mad Cave, we have people from Anarchic Press, we have people from Action Labs. Basically, like I said, anyone who I knew would work with me, you know, is in this book. And it's really, really exciting. We are going to have a softcover, hardcover. The launch is October 27th. I'm even thinking about probably messaging Tom after this to maybe do a forward for me. It's too late to be in the book, but maybe do a forward. He did 3 years of Oz stuff. Maybe he could check it out and like it. But yeah, that's what it is. Really like you guys support it. It's going to be really big, and not just for me, but for the 30 plus creators who are on it.
Well, that's awesome to hear that many creators in one book. I mean, that's something you don't see a lot in comics.
Well, especially telling one story, right? That's the big key. Is though it's an anthology story, no story hurts any other story, and it leads to one big long narrative. And unlike, there's really just top tier. Everybody in there has done something to the next level, you know. So I'm really excited to put it out. I expect it's going to do great things. I have stolen for both H.P. Lovecraft and Frank Barnes. Can't even say it. Frank Barnes. You get what I'm saying. So I've stolen from everybody to make this happen. So let's do it.
And Tom, what about you? What do you got going on?
There's nothing really active at the moment. We're about to be shipping 2 Kickstarters out. The Kickstarter for the Critter hardcover is at the printer right now, and Princesses vs. Zombies is at the printer. So they'll be both shipping kind of at a similar time, which will be early to mid-November. But next weekend, a week from today, Ursa Minor is back on Kickstarter. It is our love letter to the horror genre, the last of the werebears and her quest for revenge against every vampire on the planet. She's already taken out Lady Bathory, and in this new volume, Dracula is Rising. So we've got a whole new run of horror stuff that starts next Saturday.
How have you not told me this?
I'm sorry.
Oh. Okay, so werewolves and vampires are my jam, and now you're adding werebears. Like, we got to get on. What are you doing?
All right, we'll get
Brian, physical media. You're not telling her about the good projects. What are you even doing? Do you even husband?
Brian's not getting.
Isn't communication key to a good marriage?
Sometimes.
The
Well,
Kickstarter.
and Brian will be like, well, here's this other stuff that's happening. And I'm like, but tell me more, because I don't know. And I can't follow anything because there's this thing called work that I have to do.
The Kickstarter will have a reward level that will get you everything from start to new. So there, if you want to get it all, there will be a one-click button to get everything.
Well, and then we have to get on Voodoo Nation too, because that's voodoo.
Yeah.
It's voodoo. Like, I'm into the weird shit. I don't know. It's a thing.
We're all into weird shit.
Not super weird shit. Not
you
the
like
shit the kids in my
demons?
class are talking about.
What about you, Russell? I know that you have a Kickstarter coming up.
Yeah, so we got the launch of the first book is in on Nanite Titan. It's going to be the fall before the rise. It's going to be an awesome, epic story about Raziel Stevens and how he obtains the suit, why the suit was created. Basically, it's going to be the origin story of Raziel Stevens, what happens to him and his family, and all its awesomeness. it will be kickstarting November 17th, and it's going to be awesome. So you guys need to definitely check it out. If you want to find anything on it, Google Russ Explode, and you'll find me. Russ Explode Studios on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and if you want to find me, you can find me at www.xenonanitetitan.com. And if you search Russ Explode, that website will come up as well. So if you Google Russ Explode, it's going to be like a whole page of everything of mine, because I've had that since like 1998. That's kind of been my tagline, because I like to blow stuff up. And yes, there's going to be massive explosions in the book. It's going to be awesome. Big explosions.
So Michael Bay will direct your stuff.
That's awesome.
Michael Bay can't handle my stuff. My explosions are bigger than that.
Oh,
Wow.
well, there we go. We're just gonna get another cease and desist letter this time from Michael Bay. What about you? What about you, Javier? What do you got going on?
Well, I got my hands on a couple of different pies here. Just this last weekend, I got approached to do a cover, both a standard cover and a risque cover, for a comic book adaptation of a horror movie called Naked Cannibalistic Campers. I don't know anything beyond that, except it's 3 female protagonists. Instructions to be delivered, and I'll deliver the covers. So that's one.
I think that
I'm
I
drawing.
was looking at Tom's reaction to the name of that. And I
Uh-huh.
think he might have caught his attention.
I thought for sure that was going to be a totally rad comics book based on that title, Jim E. Noble's stuff. Like that's 100% a Jim E. Noble title.
I'm just trying to reach a new group of people who don't know me. So that's it. I just finished doing a cover for Return to Sender, which is a cowboy book. It's based on that time frame, but it's about the postal officer. He goes around delivering mail, and in between he fights, werewolves and monsters in the Pacific Northeast. Oh my goodness.
Oh no! Tell that guy
Sorry,
that
Nicole.
Westerns don't sell. Tell that guy Westerns don't sell. He
I
needs
know.
to stop that.
Yeah.
One.
His Kickstarter has done better than anything I've ever done. So I'm happy to have been a part of that group. I'm drawing Bobby Fulton and the Fantastic Issue 2. Issue 1 came out about a year and a half ago. I literally just finished it as you guys and we were talking. I literally just finished these pages. This is page 24, so I got to ink it. So I'll do that while I'm doing my 9 to 5, waiting for calls. I'll ink that. I got another book called American Eagle. I'm co-owner with that, and it's a patriotic hero. And I get to draw my superhero fix on that one. The Bobby Fulton one is a wrestling one. And let me see what else. Oh gosh. Well, I've done a bit, but I'm really proud of the work I did for Reconstruction. I was able to donate 6 pages to that book, and all the proceeds for this book was supposed to be sent back to Puerto Rico to help people there after Hurricane Maria pretty much devastated a large portion of the infrastructure that was already poorly maintained as it was. It just dealt it a death blow that the country still 3 years later hasn't recovered from. We can have a long conversation about the politics, economics, but, sucky people suck. And Mother Nature, is out to kill us. We just stay above ground and above water. And, I'm just trying to do something for the country. And I was able to finally say, yeah, I did something for my hometown. I did something for my little part of the world that I consider home. And, right now, I wanted to just say one last thing about you guys. We were talking about the being indie artist. Yes, it's awesome to do it. I think it's a big sacrifice because I personally have to be really honest about my skill level, about how I always want more than I truly deserve, how I want to be as good as the idols that I emulate, but I know by emulating them that's all I can do. And I love where I'm at. I love the stories that I'm working on, because they're unique voices. It's not a corporate, writer telling me draw this so we could put it on an underoos and on a can. No, this is truly art. And us artists, most of the time we tend to be very independent and very, by ourselves. And this is a great way to get to know people. I get to know a writer by reading what he writes or she writes. I get to understand an artist by seeing them draw on YouTube, you know. I get to know people by hearing them, how passionate they are about the book that they've been working on for 13 years. It's fantastic. It's the only thing that's missing, honestly, is a drink in my hand and us being in the physical room together. So I'm truly honored to be here. I hope to see everybody here again in person one day and shake your hand and take a look at what you got going on. And please, if you need any kind of support that I can give you, forward it to me. I'll be happy to share it with the 13 followers I got. And and I'm passionate about being here, and I'm passionate about, you know, putting a voice out there for the people that I appreciate. You know, I appreciate the hustle, I appreciate the hard work, you know, and I respect it. So that's what I give out is what I just would like to see in return. So good luck to everybody. Again, a pleasure. Thank you for having me on this Saturday afternoon.
Javier, I love you. I was at a call with Javier once, and everyone was selling, and he talked to the same guy for the whole 6 hours of the show. The same guy just sat there and talked to him. But Javier never got upset, never did not care about the sales around him. But that's just the truth of like his caring for the people who want to interact with him. That guy didn't buy a thing from him, but just sat there and just loved on him. And I really loved and had so much respect for you that day. And watching you, you know, it's not the best business decision, but it was good to see you like care, like literally answering every little question that this guy had about anything.
Yeah, and the way I see it, that's just step one. You know, if this guy spends 6 hours with me, the next time he comes around, guess what? I'm going to ask for the sale. And if not, it truly, the sale will come in its due time for me. If I build a relationship with people, the next time they see my, hey, check out this book, they're going to take me seriously because I was a good person to them. I respected their opinions and their time. And you know, and I am honest in, you know, what I like and what I don't like. And, you know, if you know me, that's hopefully what you'll get out of it, is that if I don't like it, then, you know, I'm not going to say any negative. Well, I'll walk away. But if I really like it, man, I really want to see more of it. And that's the indie scene. I just wish I saw more issues 2 and more issues 3 and more issues 10. You know, God, such a great concept. You have great development sketches and all this stuff, and you got a great plan. I love it. Year later, I still got the same book. So I try to be better. I try, I fail, but I try. That's why you see, if I'm talking about projects, I'm always talking about the next project, because project 1, I did the first issue. If the guy doesn't continue, I'm jumping up to the next thing. You know, as all of you probably understand, we need new product. If I don't have a comic book, I have no product. Nobody's going to buy a page of art that from a book they've never seen, you know, and I can only have so many sketch covers or fan art of other properties that I feel like I'm stealing from them when I really should be promoting you guys' stuff, your stuff, and your stuff, you know? So yeah, again, I'm all indie. I'm all in. If I can help anybody with a sketch, a design, or a cover, I don't care. Just reach out to me. As busy as it can be, it doesn't matter. Indie is it. And you know, I guess if I ever get a tattoo, that's what I'll put on my butt. Indie, made in China, I guess.
Well, that's a good way to end the show here. Relationships in the indie community is very strong, I believe, and I'm a huge supporter of indie everything. I like indie films, indie music, indie comics, and I think it's time to ring the bell and end the show. Till next week, episode 30, where we're talking wrestling factions. This has been Reels and Heels.
Have a great day, guys.